What's going on, guys? So I have now completed 8 weeks of the paleo diet and 4 weeks of intermittent fasting. So in this video, I'm primarily going to talk about the intermittent fasting portion and what occurred during that period, as well as kind of preview the ketogenic diet and some of the changes that I'm going to be making going into that phase of my diet experiment. So originally with intermittent fasting, I wanted to do a 4-hour window, but I quickly realized that I could fit my meals into 2 or 3 hours, and I would generally just have 2 meals within that period. But then I kind of started just combining those 2 meals and eating them as 1 meal, and that was pretty much what I was doing for most of it. There are some days where I kind of had to switch it up and then do 2 meals, and I think it was still over a 2 or 3 hour period. So either way, it turned into either 4 hours or 2 or 3 hours or 1 meal a day. But the main thing that I learned over this period is that the cravings got pretty bad during the time that I wasn't eating. Like around 11 or 12, that's whenever they really started to act up and I started to get hungry. And even towards the end of the diet, I wasn't necessarily even noticing the hunger, or it wasn't even really there that much because my body was getting used to it, but the cravings were still there. And then I cheated. And that's another thing that I learned, is that I shouldn't give in to the cravings, because then it makes it easier to give in to them again. And then the other main thing that I learned from this experiment is the energy levels. My energy levels also dipped around the same time, around 11 or 12. There were some times where I went till 1 or 2 or the entire day without having any energy problems, but for the most part, I would kind of start to get tired during that period. But aside from that, there wasn't really much else that I noticed different while intermittent fasting. I didn't notice many really benefits or anything like that. It was super convenient, and that is something that I do really enjoy and will probably continue to apply to my life after the diet experiment. But that was pretty much the only thing that I learned from this. Now looking at the ketogenic diet and that phase of my diet experiment, I want to first kind of explain the ketogenic diet. So most people, they operate mostly on carbohydrates or glycogen, which is what carbohydrates turn into in our body. And then they're stored in our glycogen stores, in our muscles, and our fat, and all those sorts of things. So we burn those off for the most part. And with the ketogenic diet, you primarily rely on fat, which are then turned into ketones for energy. Now, whenever you are on the ketogenic diet, you want to make sure that you are in a state of ketosis so that you can rely on those ketones. Because if you release too much insulin into your system from eating too much carbohydrates, then it knocks you out of a state of ketosis. So that is the major thing with the ketogenic diet. You want to make sure that you limit the amount of carbohydrates to something like less than 5% of your daily caloric intake. And because of this, it will probably be easier for me to prevent myself from cheating, just because with the paleo diet, you don't necessarily need to be in any specific state, but with the keto diet, you need to be in a state of ketosis in order to continue to rely on the ketones for a fuel source. So because of that, I want to make sure that I remain in the state of ketosis throughout the diet, and it'll be easier for me to not cheat. And then I've also heard that whenever you're on the ketogenic diet, you don't really get hunger as much, just because it's a lot easier for your body to start using fat stores as energy. Whereas whenever you're primarily using glycogen and carbohydrates, then it takes a lot longer for it to switch over to burning your fat stores. But because you are relying on ketones from food, then it's a lot easier to switch to the ketones that are in your body. But there are some things that I'm going to change about this diet experiment. So originally, I was going to do 4 weeks of just keto and then do 4 weeks of intermittent fasting with keto like I did with paleo. But with the paleo experiment, I've kind of learned that there aren't too many changes whenever it comes to intermittent fasting. So I really like the convenience of intermittent fasting, and I'm going to continue to apply that to the ketogenic diet throughout the entire 8 weeks. Actually, during this week off that I've had from dieting, I've kind of started to do just 2 meals a day and have a 6-hour window where I eat at either 11 or 12 and then again at 5 or 6. And I've found that doing this has really helped my energy levels, because first, I eat during the 11 or 12 period whenever I'm starting to get a little bit tired. That kind of helps boost me back up and keeps my energy stable throughout that period. And then also by pushing the big meal back to 5 or 6, that also helps me continue working until later in the day. Whereas whenever I was eating around 2 or 3 with the 1 meal a day, I would get so full that I wouldn't really want to do anything. So I'm going to continue to apply that to the ketogenic diet, and I might make some changes, but that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. And then also the last thing that I'm going to change is for these videos, I'm just going to post one every 4 weeks because I feel like that will be a lot more meaningful and I'll be able to go more in depth on the changes that I noticed over the 4 weeks instead of doing one every week where I honestly just kind of had to bullshit some of the changes and look for super small things. But that's pretty much all that I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.